All right, call the meeting to order at 7:37 p.m. Wednesday, May 3rd.
Councilwoman Selby,
Present.
Councilman Karatini,
Present.
Supervisor Keating,
Present.
Councilwoman Lukasik,
Present.
Councilman Martin. Absent. Thank you. Councilwoman Selby, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, you have the floor.
Father, thou art the Lord of heaven and earth, and we thank you for ordaining government under your Son. We pray, Lord, for our leaders, that thou will give them wisdom and fairness. We pray that thou will protect them, and do protect our town, our homes and businesses, our school, from vicious people. We thank thee that thou art above all, and we are here to acknowledge your presence and pray for your help. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, we do not have any other committee orders tonight, so we'll move on to regular business. First item of business is the correction and adoption of minutes from the April 19th, 2023 town board meeting. Councilwoman Lukasik, would you like to take that up?
No, Mr. Supervisor, as I was absent.
Oh, that's right, you know what, you were. Yeah, thank you. Councilman Karatini, would you like to take that up? It would be my pleasure.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and adopt the minutes as written.
I will second.
Councilwoman Selby,
Yes.
Councilman Karatini,
Yes.
Supervisor Keating,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lukasik.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, item number 2 tonight is the consideration of all fund bills. Councilwoman Sully, would you like to take that item tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. After reviewing the fund bills, I'd like to make a motion to make a motion to pay the fund bills in the amount of $300,382.45.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Selby,
Yes.
Councilman Karatini,
Yes.
Supervisor Keating,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lukasik.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item number 3 tonight is our correspondence. We have 14 items of correspondence tonight. All have been received and filed with the town clerk's office. These items go as, item number 1 is the NICEAG and RG&E Climate Change Vulnerability Study and Resilience Plan Working Group Meeting from April 17th, 2023. Item number 2 is the North Boston Town Park Restroom and Pavilion update from Labella to answer mortar repair for concrete slab honeycombing. Item number 3 is the North Boston Town Park Restroom and Pavilion, April 26, 2023 minutes. Item number 4 is the Architect's Field Report from Labella, report number 19. Item number 5 is the Town Clerk and Tax Collector Audit Reports, year ended from December 31st, 2022. Item 6 is the Erie County Southtown Planning and Development Group meeting from April 24th, 2023. Item number 7 is a letter from the Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz for the Affirmative Action Officer. Item number 8 is a letter from the Delaware River Solar notice of an interconnect agreement to the town. Item number 9 is a letter from Erie County Department of Environment and Planning, the Erie County CDBG, which is also known as the Community Development Block Grant Consortium. Item number 10 is a letter from the New York State DEC Office of the Commissioner for the Climate Smart Communities Pledge. Item number 11 is the SLFRF, or some people have known this as the American Rescue Plan Compliance Report that the town is required to submit for March 2023. Item number 12 is, again, an ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act summary of expenditures dated March 31st, 2023. Item 13 is a 2022 schedule of federal expenditures. And item number 14 is the annual financial report update document for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2022. And that's also known as the AUD, sometimes referred to by the town board. Again, all items have been received and filed in the town clerk's office. Moving on to new business tonight is request from the floor. Anyone would like to come up to the microphone, please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes each. Floor is open.
Good evening, board. Jay Boardway, 6530 Fairlane Drive, right down here in the valley. 31-year resident of the town. And as you are all aware, I spent 8 years sitting in Councilwoman Lukasek's seat also. Through those 8 years, I stressed one thing probably every meeting, at least at one point, that we live in the most beautiful town in Erie County. I actually got people in other towns mad at me because of that, but I said it over and over again. The town clerk could probably go through those minutes and say that I said that 100 times in 8 years. I firmly still believe that, and I still firmly believe that today. Had a beautiful wife here for 33 years, raised 3 wonderful children in this town. Aside that, our time on the board, we also spent a lot of time talking about Boston being a right to farm community. Okay. We weren't talking about farming solar energy. We were talking about the animals, the nesting, the birds and the bees. That's what we were talking about. Running farms, people sustaining themselves, sustaining their families, and making a living. River solar. Apparently, there's not been a lot of discussion of that, even though now I've gone back through the minutes and seen a couple of correspondence come in. It's an interesting organization, to say the least. If you look real closely on their website, you can kind of glean some of the information that they actually do. Okay. What these folks do is they will gut 10, 15, 20 acres of property, and they'll install solar, a big swatch of solar panels. Then they will take the energy from these solar panels and they're going to sell it to National Grid, or they're going to sell it to NYSEG, okay, here in town. What's going to happen there is NYSEG is going to use that to give us some electricity. And the profit structure, again, if you look on their website, is real interesting. They get 95% of the profit, and they will guarantee you maybe 5% savings on your electric bill. Now, what happened yesterday, National Grid just went to the Public Service Commission and asked for a 17% hike. So, you know, NYSEG is going to do that pretty soon too, and they're going to get this part of the state. So you've got a company taking 95% of the profit, putting it in their own pocket, and you're going to get a 17% hike probably, but you're going to save 5%. So you're 12% in the hole right off the bat when the power goes up. Interesting thing on this company, they're a franchise. That means they're like McDonald's and they're like Tim Hortons. If and when, or if hopefully not, this board ever chooses to let them in town, you know what happens with franchise. You set that precedent that day. You let the first one in. You let them in the door. They're going to go bing, 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 bing. All over my West Hill? I don't know. I don't care for that. The other interesting thing about this company is they're from New York City, folks. New York City. That's where they started. That's where they're based. That's where the blocks of money go. What has New York City ever done for us? I beg to say nothing, but they do like one thing. They like our money. They like to keep our money, take our money, and give us nothing in return. And I suspect that's what we're getting involved with over here. And I beg this town board to not let that happen. Keep the town of Boston beautiful, please. Please. Honorable board members, thank you so much. Okay. And you too, Jason. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anthony Bernardi, 5249 Glen Terrace, town of Boston here. Hamburg, right? Hamburg. All right, Boston. What I got to say about these solar farms is why don't they put these parking lots in parking lots? Because that's what they are. When we put them in Lowe's and Home Depot and Tops and where we go and purchase things, and if we do go electric, we can plug in over there and maybe it'll utilize something of purpose. Right now, excuse me, it's no purpose at all, putting them in, taking away our farmland and our places for our wildlife to roam and be. They want to take all the green space away, and I've been just upset about that with all these solar farms I'm saying put all over the place. Thank you.
I'd like to just call it what it is. It's not a solar farm, it's a solar facility. We're just going to get right down to it. They try to dress it up and
Sir, if I can just interrupt you one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce
Sorry,
myself.
go right
Jeff Persanti of Fedek Road, 7806. I'd like to say that this proposal that was brought to my attention by members, your coworkers, they are looking for the area to get changed from agricultural residential to industrial. The roadway is supposed to go in where they're going to be bringing in heavy equipment, all these solar panels, all this stuff, these inverters, all the heavy lines between two residential homes. Now, this is a community of people here who have retired. They've built a life for themselves, young people, older people, and we don't need this to be turned into some industrial facility. This is a residential community. Now, if you want to do your solar panels and all that, I say to Delaware River Solar, you can go ahead, you can do that, but not in the middle of a neighborhood. They're there for one thing, it's profit. They're going to try to twist things. They're going to try to make it look like they're for the environment. They're for this green stuff. They're riding off this flavor of the week. They're taking advantage of it, and they're hoping that they can strong arm their way into this town. And they do not belong here. This is a residential community. This is not an industrial facility. A few points I want to bring up about that. There is going to be an impact on the ground. There is going to be waterways that need to be crossed, which is part of the Lake Erie watershed. How do we know that all of the proper steps are going to be taken when this company, who has been around for, I think, less than a decade, they say that they're taking all proper precautions, this and that? What happens if there is an event of emergency? Is our fire department trained to put a fire out? What happens if one of these solar panels cracks under the weight of these huge snowfalls that we've had? What kind of chemicals are in these? Are these solar panels manufactured here in the United States? Are we bringing jobs to the United States because we are going to be using made in USA components? No, they're made in China. A majority of these solar panels are made in China. So, are they going to tell us anything about this? Of course they're not, because they're going to give us the corporate run-of-the-mill jargon to make their company look like they are the heroes. They're in the knight in shining armor. They're the ones that are trying to make our community better, and they're going to give us all of the nonsense, and they're going to pitch it to you, and they're going to deny the facts. They'll hire experts. They will hire experts that are extremely biased, that support their points, that try to emphasize all of the positive aspects of it. Yet this is way, way, way too early to be deemed safe, effective. It is a money grab for them, and they are using our town to do it. We are not here for corporate entities, especially when these corporate entities want to take our residential community, where people have worked hard to make a living, make a good life for themselves, and then turn it into some industrial complex, not a solar farm or any of the other stuff that they try to sugarcoat it with to make it look like this wonderful place that is saving the environment. A couple things that I wanted to bring up here real quick about this. This noise coming from the inverters, this low-pitched humming noise. Where are these substations or whatever going to be? How is this power going to be transmitted? You've got all these solar panels, and then you're going to put this right between two homes. I think that raises some issues there. Not for Delaware Solar, for the residents living there. Now that kind of feeds into something else. What about the values of all of our homes in the area? And that affects everybody here. All of a sudden, when we are swallowed up by some huge solar industrial facility, not farmland, value of our homes goes down. The solar company, Delaware Solar, all of these solar companies always say, this is going to be great. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to be great for the local economy. Like I said before, the typical run-of-the-mill corporate nonsense that they're going to try to get. They hire these PR experts to try to make people believe that this is something wonderful. It is not. Home values go down. Wildlife gets affected by it. Not only that, speaking of wildlife getting affected by it, they plan on cutting down numerous trees, which are the habitat for lots of wildlife, that will no longer be farmland, which has been farmed for many years by a local family. You are going to have heavy equipment. You are going to have trucks coming up and down the road. You are going to be bringing all of this stuff in, all of this noise, the wear and tear on the road, all so we can put more money in their pocket. We don't work for corporations. We're here for us. This corporation is not going to get rich off of our town. A couple things that I also want to mention. Keentone Pipeline, that crosses this proposed solar facility. It's a gas line. They send gas lines from, I believe it's northern Pennsylvania, the Warren, Pennsylvania area, up to the north towns here in the Buffalo area. I mentioned the fire hazard, the special training. Do we have equipment to fight fires like that? What happens if it happens in the winter? Who's going to maintain this roadway going back to this solar facility? What happens if there's a fire? What happens if there's damage to nearby structures? Anything could happen. Chemicals, who knows?
Just like 1 second. Is everyone okay? You have gone over the 3 minutes. Everyone's okay?
Okay.
Make sure.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry to make this long-winded, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you, everyone. Sorry to make this long-winded. I just wanted to touch on all the points. And we want to respect everybody's time. Absolutely. And I'm just going to wrap things up with this. And I'll just tell you guys what we'll be expecting to hear from Delaware River Solar if one of their representatives is here. I don't know if anybody here met any of them. Did they come around and shake our hands and say, we're going to help you guys out. We're going to bring your power bills down to nothing. No, I didn't even know about it. Luckily, we have a really tight-knit community, and we all are here because we let everybody else know. And that's a pretty good community to stand up against some corporation like that. So what we're going to hear from Delaware Solar, we're going to hear stuff like this. They're going to deflect all these concerns. Anything that we raise here, they're just going to try to come up with some corporate PR nonsense, and they are going to try to disregard our statements. They're going to be using the excuse of the green sustainable energy. They're going to play off of that one because that's where I'm sure they're getting a lot of their grant money and all the other funding for it. But anyway, they're concerned about our future is what they're going to say. They're going to try to twist, deflect, gaslight, all the Psych 101 terms that somebody would use, because they're going to say, we don't care about our future. We do care about our future because we don't want some evil industrial corporation in our neighborhood. This is where we live. We didn't choose to live in some big, huge industrial facility. We were here first, not them. Like I said before, they are going to pay big money for experts, for biased studies that they are going to try to use to convince everybody that this is so beneficial. But as we know, the facts speak for themselves. It's not that way. And I'm going to end on this. Any reasonable concerns that we all are raising here are going to be probably deflected with some line of years of research shows that blah, 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 so on and so forth. I'm sure you'll be hearing that one. Yet this is a relatively new company. I think they've only been around 6-7 years or so. I'm not exactly sure of the exact number. And they're going to emphasize how they're going to benefit the local community, the tax base, the schools, all the residents. No, they're there for one reason, and that's one reason only, and that's to line their pockets. And they are not going to use our town to do that. We are not going to let that happen. So if you guys could put yourselves in the shoes of us residents, and if you guys were going to have a roadway going right through the middle of your neighborhood where heavy equipment, big trucks, all of this noise, all of this nonsense is going on, would you want it? Would you want your home and the value of it to go down and plummet? Would you be receiving any benefit from it? No, I don't think you would. And I'm going to end on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jason Collard. I'm resident of Feddick Road for 31 years. It's hard to follow the last two speakers here. They pretty much covered everything we need to cover, but I would urge the board to really look into prior solar fields that have been built recently. One in Eden comes to mind. These guys are going to bring big corporate lawyers in, and they're going to kind of rough you up a little bit. And I urge you to stay strong, hold fast against this, because I'm going to speak from a personal point of view. This solar field is going to be right out my window. I'm going to be looking at it. The sun glares from it are going to be ridiculous. It's a field where I've always enjoyed watching wildlife walk through there, and it's one of the reasons I built in Boston, because it's beautiful views and great sunsets, and that's all going to be taken away by one guy who really benefits from it. It's a shame that it has to be that way. I hope we really hold steadfast to the line of what this group is expressing here, and please consider that the impact this will really have on people. Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Ron Moan, resident of Fedek Road, 7408 Fedek Road. However, it is a Hamburg address, but I'm with everybody here in Boston. It's hard to follow this other gentleman here, but this is farmland. These are dairy farms, not solar farms. We love our views. We love our wildlife. Fedek Road, no issue with Bob as a county road. It's beat to crap already. And now we're going to start hauling heavy equipment up here. Where are the tree huggers? Okay, we're going to clear cut property here. And this whole Green New Deal thing that is getting rammed down our throats. Unfortunately, I don't want to get political because we all know where that comes from. But I second a bunch of comments here. I'm in favor of a bunch of and I literally just found out about this. I haven't even had time to do research on it. And thank God some other people here have. But let's not just let this get rammed down our throats, because I have a feeling people aren't going to be too happy about it. Thank you for hearing me out. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Bob Telex, 7900 Fedek Road, Boston. My property butts up to this solar farm, so when I look out my back fields, I will see this in my backyard also. But I do have some pros and cons here about the solar farms. There is only one thing, in my opinion, that is green about a solar farm, and that's the sunshine. There is nothing else green on a solar farm. This particular solar farm is taking away over 20 acres of valuable farmland and cutting down hundreds and hundreds of mature trees in the forest. Nothing green about that. There are many toxic materials that are over time will leach into the soil, contaminating the soil, and then washing into the streams that lead into Hampton Brook, then into the 18-Mile Creek, then end up in Lake Erie, and then possibly back in our drinking water. Solar farm fires do happen, and when they do, none of our town volunteer firemen have been trained to fight these fires. I should have got up here and first and talked because everybody else did all my things, but anyway, let's talk about the wildlife. Wildlife in the area of a solar farm will be gone. There will be no more hunting in your backyard. Deer, geese, rabbits, squirrels will all be gone. Solar farms kill thousands and thousands of birds and bees and butterflies and anything that gets close. The noise that these solar farms give off will drive most people crazy. There is very, very little recycling to solar panels because of the cost. So millions and millions of tons of these solar panels will end up in the landfills. let's talk about the property values. Your property values will drop dramatically in the area of a solar farm. Nobody in their right mind will want to buy property next to a solar farm. And then I'd like to say a little bit about back in the day about the Indians. Back in the day, the Indians all lived back in Hampton Brook and back in these woods back there. So I'm sure there's plenty of arrowheads and artifacts and all kinds of good things back there. There is no place in our town for these solar farms. There are one pro about the solar farms, and that is if you grow vegetables and farm, you won't have any more deer or wildlife eating your crops. That's about the only pro I could come up with. These solar farms should have to follow all the town codes and rules, no variances. And our town of Boston should make tougher codes to stop the future farms from coming in. Because there's several large farms with large acreage up there, and they could stay 500 feet from everybody's property and still put 50 acres or 100 acres of these solar farms on some of these large farms and be within our code. So we should toughen up our codes. And pretty much that's all I have tonight about that. Thank you.
I'm going to talk to you the same way I talked to you 3-4 months ago. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. What does Boston have going for it as far as this 20-year plan that's being designed? You've got a good watershed. You've got lots of acres that should be organized into carbon credits, sequestered carbon credits. They're divided up among small residential plots. But with proper planning, you could set up a town-wide credit system. You still have a local law from 2007 that restricts windmills. You have not planned for the future. You are not planning for roads. You are not planning for sewers. You are not planning for water supply for a sustainable town. It's all wonderful for people to say, boy, we've got farmland, but we're not planning it. You're not. The Freedom to Farm bill, when it was passed here, was more along the lines of keeping down, not having people be able to complain about the odor from the manure that would be put on a farm. It wasn't for the pastoral beauty of the farmland. I don't think this group of people here do them any good by having a thief speak as one of their representatives. And I think the town itself has to plan as part of its ongoing, what do you want to call it? Zoning, the future in general. You can't just be against anything. You can't be bananas. Build absolutely nothing anywhere, anybody. Okay? Just being against something isn't enough. This town is not proactive. Tomorrow night at the Zoning Board of Appeals, there's going to be a gentleman named Genzel that's going to say I had a 60-foot right-of-way that was going to be a town road, but the town isn't going to help me develop it, so I'm going to try and turn it into 2 30-foot driveways and try to get around you people. Come on. Smarten up and do what you have to do to keep the town the way you want it. Don't just say, this is terrible, run around with your hair on fire, stop people from doing anything. For example, like putting in subdevelopments between the end of Wildwood and 18 Mile Creek. That was originally planned, but people ran around and said, oh, we can't have subdevelopments. That'll take away my deer hunting for all the people who hunt deer down by 18 Mile Creek. Anyway, enough said. Do your jobs.
Rich Hawkins, 6892 Pin Oak Drive. I understand where you're coming from, but I was a town supervisor for a while. I was a councilman on the board, just like the gentleman over here spoke and stuff. And when people start going after this administration, even though I am the deputy supervisor, and I'm a Democrat, whether you like it or not, but I work with this board and I'm very outspoken. If I got something to say to you, I'm going to tell each and every one of you. Don't blame this administration. Look at previous administrations of stuff that should have been done, looking for the future of what should have been done and was not done. Every administration has different things that come up. That's why back in the 2000s, there was a solar panel issue, that because somebody wanted to put some solar panels up or windmills up at the time. The town took steps to stop that to happening. Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of empty farmland around, and all of a sudden, it's just like anything else. You have an empty piece of property. The farmer comes up because he's not farming anymore because there's no money in farms anymore. The milk industry is gone. The only time a farmer ever makes money is when he sells his farm, because he puts everything else back into the farm. Equipment, you name it. It costs a lot of money to run a farm today. So you have these solar panel people come up and say, hey, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, so that you can sell this piece of property. And hello, here you are. Never mind anybody else. And we have property on both sides of the hills that have been farmlands for years. We just had a big piece of property. If you want to go look, up on Clarence Kreisbender's old farm up there. It's a big piece of property. If you walk up there, you'll see a sign, for sale, by Mr. Eckes, selling it for whoever owns that property up there. Maybe solar panel people will want to come in and take that pipe, top of the hill, just like it is over here. What's to stop them from doing it? You've all come out, which I'm proud of, because let me tell you something. I come to every one of these meetings and stuff, and this is probably the most people that I've seen in this building in 3 to 4 years coming to a meeting, because you know why? It affects you. It affects every one of you in town because it's an issue that you don't want to talk about, that you do want to talk about because it affects you. We also, this administration is working on water projects. All of phase 1, Water District 1, is going to cost $15 million to the taxpayers of this town. And it's going to have to be done whether you like it or not, because every time we turn around, there's another water break in town, and the town's responsible for paying for it. But this is stuff, as I said, previous administrations should have been working on. That because they didn't, it wasn't a priority. Now it is. So what I'm doing is standing up, protecting this board, because I appreciate everything they're doing, because they believe in open government and what's going on. And I too don't feel that the town needs solar panels up there. Every one of us moved out to the country so we could live in the country, look out the back door, see the deer and the turkey and the squirrels and everything else running around our backyards and stuff. You, the people, speak, okay? You, the people, it's like everything else. Elections come up. You don't like what's going on. What do? You vote somebody in that's got the same ideas that you have and want what you do. But this board is probably the most open board that this town has had in a long time, because they care about what happens to this town. They truly do. And that's all I have to say.
Good evening. I'm Rick Bohr. I live on 7763 Feddick Road. I'll keep this short. I just spent 3 years of my retirement building my retirement home up on top of the hill with a spectacular view. Now I'm being told that a solar farm is in the planning stage for going right across the street from me, and my property values after it's completed is going to go down. What did I just do for 3 years? I put my life into my retirement home. And the environmental studies tell you this is not going to work where they're proposing it. Okay? That's all I have to say. It's not right. And then the way I heard of it is definitely not right. a letter should have gone out to the residents of the community telling us the proposal. Am I correct? Not everybody knocking on doors. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? No, that's not how it works. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm the other half of that. I'm Judy Board, live in the same address. My thing was with this whole thing, I know progress has to happen and things happen and people, if you don't like it, have to fight it. My big thing was that nobody knew about it. There wasn't anything in our mailbox. There, when you go on the board website to look for the agenda, there's nothing on, there's no agenda. When was it put on?
I saw it on the town website.
When?
It's under the planning board. It hasn't officially gone in front of the town.
Yeah, no, it wasn't there. So
It was available on the website.
I checked the website and it wasn't to this morning. It wasn't there, but because I wanted to see, okay, so what's going on in the town. I went to all three of them because you guys meet on all different nights. And I just think that was a little wrong that we weren't notified, you know, this might be coming to your neighborhood. Come to the town meeting, find out what it's all about. I mean, it was so hush hush, which makes me think, can I trust people? I mean, can I trust you guys? I'm new to this area. So, and I love the area. We're originally from Concord and I love the area. I love being here, but it's a trust issue now. It's just, we should have been more aware of what was going on is all, just so that we knew. That's it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can I just say, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Wendy Cicero. It's 7847 Feddick Road, and we are directly across from the proposed site. My biggest concern after, of course, we don't want the solar panels, but after listening to our gentleman over there that spoke so eloquently, that we're dealing with a company that isn't very, very old, that hasn't been in business very long, and also that they're from New York City. So what's their concern for us? He's right. There is no concern for us. They're in this to make money. We have this beautiful farmland. I grew up on Cole Road, moved to Lancaster for many years and came back. And now I'm on the other hill on Feddick Road. And I came back to be back the way I grew up, out in the country with beautiful yards, country neighborhood, neighbors there, but not right on top of you, and a beautiful view. And so I'm dead set against this solar panel farm. Thank you.
Would the board entertain comments from an alien? I'm from Hamburg, but I'm about a mile and a third away. I'm retired. I'm a retired teacher. My name is Jay Persanti, and I've spent some years doing environmental work. And because I'm retired, I've had time to research this and research this company. And the gentleman here brought up a good point. He said there was a piece of property for sale, and he said, what's to keep this company from buying that piece of property that was farmland and turning it into a solar farm? Well, if you look at the way they operate, they lease all the land. And the reason they lease the land, and the lease is only for 30 years, they lease it for 30 years because the life expectancy of the solar panels decreases 1% every year. So over 30 years, their solar farm's no good anymore, and they either have to replace those panels or walk away. If they walk away, the landowner is stuck. If the landowner walks away, you're stuck. We're all, well, you're all stuck. I'm in Hamburg. But I feel your pain. The point is, this board is not made up of professional politicians, and you don't have a staff of people to do all the research for you. And you have to be very, very, very careful. In my opinion, this company is an invasive species. And if you provide an environment for them to reproduce here, you're going to lose everything. And that's where I'll leave it.
just have one more
No
thing to
problem.
say. The fact that myself included, a lot of us in this room didn't know a whole lot about this company or what was going on. I don't feel it should be your responsibility to inform everyone what's going on. And the taxpayers in this room shouldn't have to pay for a glossy flyer. When they approach you, I feel it's your job to tell them you need to inform the public at their cost, not the board's cost, not the taxpayers in this room's cost. Fair enough, because a lot of people, they don't go online. I'm one of them. I hand my cell phone to one of my daughters when it doesn't work right. That's my problem, and I freely admit that. But a lot of people just don't go online. We go to our mailbox every day. But if they want to try and force this on you and on us, they need to provide us with the material. And I ask you guys to speak for us when it comes to that. Thank you.
As long as we're doing a twofer, I'd like to change the topic for a minute before you get into the rest of the board meeting. You're bringing up a new fee structure tonight. And I noticed some things that were being added. For example, you've doubled the fee for wood burning stoves and fireplaces. I assume this is part of the building inspector. This is a fee for the building inspector to approve a wood burning facility in a private home, in a new private home. You're not intending any fee that would be an annual fee or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Might want to move it over into the building code section rather than having it as a freestanding item then. The second thing that appeared that troubles me somewhat is a public hearing fee. If that public hearing fee is going to be placing the newspaper ads for the public hearing, that's one thing. If it's for the boards to have a public hearing, I think that's the board's duty. And a property owner that wanted to do something shouldn't have to pay a fee to have a public hearing. As far as producing the glossy brochure, that's just good business on the part of the solar farm people. They should have done that on their own.
Correct.
I don't think it's the board's responsibility, but I think that would have been good practice on the part of the solar farm people.
That's the problem with first impressions. You only get to make.
Yeah, you only get to do it
Maybe
once.
that.
Yeah. Okay, that's, as I say, I don't know what the public hearing fee was for, but I just wanted to get that on the question when you discuss it later.
And who are you?
Oh, I'm Russ Goldberg. I live at 6570 Hillcrest Avenue. I've been here about 50 years. I moved out here because we're the reverse slope of the first set of hills south of Buffalo. Okay, I'm an old combat engineer. And in my career, I worked on the Polaris and Poseidon missile submarines and on the space shuttle. And Boston's a nice town. I hope they can keep it together.
Anyone else? No, seriously. Truly. All right, with no further comment, we'll close the floor. All right, moving on to new business, item number two is to schedule a public hearing for a special use permit for an accessory apartment located at 8947 Pearl Street. And Councilman Carter, would like to take that on tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Keating. I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for a special use permit for an accessory apartment at 8947 Pearl Street on June 7th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m.
I'll second. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll second. Councilman Selby?
Yes.
Councilman Carter-Keating?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lukashev? Yes. Motion carried.
All right, item number three tonight is a resolution, item number 2023-40, approving a justice court audit. And Councilwoman Lukashev, just take that on tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Resolution number 2023-40 is approving Justice Court audit pursuant to the Uniform Justice Court Act 2019-A. Each town justice must present records and dockets for an audit to be performed by the town board or an accountant retained by the town board. So it's been reviewed and prepared by Judge Malecki and collected to turn over to us as required. I make a motion that we approve the Justice Court audit resolution number 2023-40.
I'll second.
Councilman Selby? Yes. Councilman Carney?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lubacek? Yes. Motion carried.
All right. Item number 4 tonight is resolution 2023-41 for a professional services agreement for length of service award program, also known as LoSAP. Point audit. Councilman Carney. Councilman Carney, would you mind taking that?
Thanks, Supervisor Keating. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2023-41, which is a professional services agreement for the length of service award program for a points audit. The LoSAP program as it stands is funded at a level below what is recommended by the program's actuaries. The town is reviewing its options on the same program, including potential modifications. The fee for Pinsky Law Group perform the scope of work is a total not to exceed $4,800.
Councilman Selby? Yes. Councilman Carney?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lubacek? Yes. Sorry, I was going motion carried. Sorry about the interruption. Motion was carried. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. All right, item number 5 tonight under new business is resolution 2023-42, adopting revised fee schedule. And Councilwoman Selby, would you like to take that item tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Whereas the town code enforcement officer and the town planning consultant have reviewed town fees, and they recommended adopting this revised fee schedule. And so, as it stipulates in resolution number 2023-42, and I'd like to make a motion to adopt this based on their recommendation and review.
I'll second.
Councilman Selby?
Yes.
Councilman Carney?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lubacek? Yes. Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, item number 6 tonight is resolution 2023-43, adoption of the updated New York State harassment and discrimination policy. And Councilwoman Lubacek, would you like to take that item tonight?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. Resolution 2023-43, the adoption of the updated harassment and discrimination policy is basically just updating it from what was received from, this was New York State. New York State had revised, and we thus revised ours to match theirs as they highly recommended. So I make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-43.
I'll second.
Councilman Selby?
Yes.
Councilman Carney?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lubacek? Yes. Motion carried.
All right, item number 7 is resolution 2023-44 to purchase a generator for the parks and EMS building. And Councilman Carney, can we take that item tonight? I'd be pleased to.
I'd like to adopt resolution 2023-44 for the purchase of a generator for the Parks and EMS building at 8500 Boston State Road. We received 2 quotes, and I'd like to award it to Gentech in the amount of $10,272.85.
I'll second. Councilwoman Selby?
Yes.
Councilman Carney?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lubacek? Yes. Motion carried.
All right, item number 8 is resolution 2023-45 to seal and stripe the Boys and Girls Club parking lot. This is an updated resolution at the last board meeting. I'll take this item tonight. So I'd like to make a motion due to the fact that when the M&M Asphalt Maintenance LLC organization was contacted, that we had approved at the last meeting, they withdrew their quote because they're anticipating being awarded all of the projects. So this resolution is to update and award the agreement with Land On Enterprises to, again, seal and strike the Boys and Girls Club parking lot with a total dollar amount at the amount of $3,350. I'll second.
Councilwoman Zalby?
Yes.
Councilman Karakini?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lutz? Yes, motion carried.
All right, item number 9 is I'd like to make a motion. I'll take this item. There's some discussion downstairs. We're still reviewing some of the proposals, but I'd like to make a motion to table item number 9 for the resolution to authorize HVAC preventive maintenance agreement.
I will second. Councilwoman Zalby?
Yes.
Councilman Karakini?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lutz? Yes, and the motion is tabled.
All right, there is no old business tonight, so we'll move on to reports and presentations. Highway Superintendent, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Highway Department and Parks Department, we have the equipment on auctions international for sale. And tonight, the sale closed. Our parks truck, 2011 Chevy, brought $6,700. Our high lift is a 2006 444, brought $46,000. And the 2018 Chevy pickup brought $26,200. So I believe them are all really fair prices, and I'm gonna approve that tomorrow, so I'm happy with that. Brush pickup started on first. We do every road one time in May. We got lots of wood chips, we got a lot of dirt fill. Anybody looking for fill and wood chips, we have that. Once we're done with the chipping, we got a lot of roads to get ready for oil and stone. We got culverts to change, so we got a lot of work lined up. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Councilwoman Sully, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just wanted to thank everybody that came out and spoke about the solar farm. Thank you for your kind words, Deputy Supervisor Hawkins. I've got pages of notes here and I'm taking it very seriously, and I thank you all for your time in coming out. It was very informative to know that everybody is on, their feelings and how they feel. And we're going to be sympathetic to all that. We live here and we appreciate the time. So thank you.
All right. Councilman Karakini, you have the floor.
Thank you, Supervisor Keating. I will start by saying that we had a meeting this morning with some of the emergency services personnel to develop a better parking situation for our 4th of July fireworks. As many know, we have a really great firework display in the town of Austin, and we are going to be filing a plan with D-Land, which is going to change the parking this year. It's going to make it safer for people that are walking on Boston State Road, and there'll be information published on our website, and probably in the interest of the comments we heard tonight, posted here at Town Hall, the map that basically you're not going to be allowed to, by police order, not park on Boston State Road, which will eliminate a lot of the bottlenecks that we've had. We had a traffic accident last year that was unrelated to our fireworks, but we are taking that very seriously this year. I'd like to thank the first responders for coming to the meeting this morning at 10 to lay all that out. This was certainly a well-attended board meeting, and I appreciate that. And Rich, Deputy Supervisor Hawkins, made a good point about that. These meetings tend to be very lightly attended, and one of the hardest things that I wish people would have stayed. One of the hardest things when you run for office and accept a position is there's all these things that you want to do. And when you get in and you take an oath of office, you take an oath of office to uphold the United States Constitution, the Constitution of New York State, as well as any of the laws that are applicable in your town. And I understand people's concern about this project. I'll leave my personal views on these green energy initiatives out of this conversation for now. But there's a framework that these projects come to the town. And I think it's worth mentioning that when somebody approaches the town to do a project like this, that they have to submit a proposal and it has to follow the legal process to go through it. I hope that the people that spoke tonight come to the public hearing when, go to the zoning board meeting, go to the planning board meeting, and get involved in it, because that's where it makes a difference. We rely on a volunteer body of a zoning board and a planning board. And they're unpaid, they're residents of the town, and we take counsel from them on what to do with these projects. I can tell you this, the chairman of the planning board, start again. Well, I speak off the cuff, and I may not say it the same way. All right. Yes, I'll do my best.
Mr. Jackson does have a website, for those of you that did miss, and Councilman Carter Keen did have a bunch of great points. Just an FYI, Mr. Jackson does have a website, the Boston -NY webpage, also on the town website. All these meetings are currently being live streamed and also recorded. So if you, again, FYI, for those of you that are not aware of this, the camera sits in the back room. These are currently being live streamed and also, for public consumption down the road, going back to the openness, transparency. This board brought that in, again, respectfully, because the taxpayers, you pay all of our salaries, but I don't want to take away from.
We did get the cameras through grants. We didn't use your money for it.
Excellent point.
Oh, I'm sorry, can I just butt in real quick?
Sure.
Just on behalf of everybody here, for the future, can we somehow be informed whenever this Delaware River Solar tries to make a push for whatever nonsense they're trying to do?
Well, that's what I'm addressing.
Okay, because obviously there's I think zoning board meeting tomorrow, and we just want to make sure that we're all in the loop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry if I missed that part.
No, it's no worries, no problem. So I'm gonna make y'all sit through my first part of the report.
We won't hold it against you if you don't.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Moore, right?
Mr. Wall, yeah.
Can you do it twice? Yeah, I do. We are changing the traffic structure for the 4th of July fireworks, so it'll be safer for the people attending. We've had the attendance of our fireworks for the 4th of July Independence Day celebration go through the roof. And so there's gonna be a police order on Boston State Road. You're not gonna be able to park on Boston State Road, and you're only gonna be able to go north and southbound to eliminate U-turns and people, causing backups. We met this morning with the first responders and developed a plan that we're gonna file with D-Land, so it's gonna streamline the process. And I did take a moment to thank the first responders for coming. I will do so again. We met this morning at 10 o'clock to develop that plan. So when you run for office and you take a position in public life, there's all these things that you want to do. And the thing is, there's a framework. You take an oath of office to uphold the United States Constitution, New York State Constitution, as well as your local constitution if you have them. We have local laws and zoning. And there's a process for the way companies come in and present things. It first has to be determined whether it needs a zoning change. If it needs a zoning change, it has to go through the zoning board. These are volunteer boards that they're made up of residents. And I would encourage everybody that came to this meeting tonight to attend the zoning board, attend a planning board related to this project. Because these are all just regular people volunteering their time to oversee what happens in our town. And they make a recommendation to us as to what to do with it. And I will say this, we are a hands-off board when it comes to directing things one way or the other. These are good people that come in and listen to these projects. They look at the scope of the law, they make a recommendation to approve it and go forward with it, or modify it or deny it. And so by the time it gets here, it's already gone through those processes. So I seriously would encourage everybody to go to those meetings and make your voices heard. It depends whether or not, it's been a long time since I was on the planning board, but it's not, okay, I don't know if there's public comment, but simply your presence there is important. And, yeah, I get the big corporations and the attorneys and how they like to push these things through and soft sell them. I'll leave my personal views of a lot of these projects and initiatives. I'll get to you, Mr. Goldberg. I have my own thoughts on that. And like many of you, I'm like-minded. So, but I encourage you to come to those, because we don't just get to decide what happens. There's a legal framework for everything that happens in this town. And you have 5 people on this board that follow that to the letter. So it's early in the stages of this, but I'm glad that there was a lot of people that came out, and I think I suspect why they came out. But either way, it was great to see and hear from people. I mean, there was a problem that we were all unaware of, and that was the last time we had as many people in this boardroom. And that was when the fill up on Chestnut Lane. Yeah. She don't say that.
Not Chestnut Lane,
That was
Hillcrest.
Yeah, that was a situation where people were upset about it. But if you don't know that they're upset about it because you live in the valley or you live on the opposite hill and you're never in those places, it's wonderful to hear from people in a constructive way. And I did appreciate hearing from all of you tonight. We all take notes, and if you see us scribbling up here, I know Kathy's taking notes, I'm taking notes, so that you can recall it. And this will go into a packet with the rest of the information we'll receive related to this project. But it does go through a legal process, and the environmental component of it is an important one. So that's all I have tonight.
Okay. I'm the liaison for the planning board, which means I also look at the zoning board, and I've asked that board clerk to send me those agendas so I can kind of understand what's going on, since I can't make all of those meetings. But there's nothing on the zoning board tomorrow that's talking about solar. So there's nothing on the planning board for the agenda next week that's about solar. There was some indication that we may get a solar project coming to the town of Boston. When that happens, those folks who are in the surrounding vicinity of that property will get mailed, physically mailed. It will also be on the Hamburg Sun. So as a public notice, that's what happens for every project, every petition that goes goes to those boards, and it's timed, and that's just how it has to work. So the zoning board and the planning board, depending on what the code says, it either goes to one of those boards. And that we just follow what the criteria tells us to do. Those boards are the ones that then have a hearing, and then that's when you make your comments during the hearing. Generally, it's up to the planning board or the zoning board, but generally, you do not have time to make comments during those meetings. It is more for them to learn and absorb what they're being told, ask questions, go back, do their homework. Then that petitioner comes back to say, okay, what do you got for me? And then they spew out everything. Trust me. They go through it with a fine tooth comb. We have a planning consultant that works for us that attends those meetings, and that person is very thorough and very good and helps us understand what we're looking at if we don't understand. So that person's for us, right, on behalf of us, so not for that petitioner. So I hope I've kind of enlightened you a bit, but there is not a solar project at this town at this moment. Once we get the plot plan, once we get the draft, that's when it will all go and publish in the Hamburg Sun, and then it'll get mailed to the surrounding properties of whatever that property is gonna be. Okay? Yep. All right, so zoning board's tomorrow night, and planning board is May 9th at 7:30. FYI, we are having a comprehensive plan being established. The last one that was established was 2000, year 2000. I was on the planning board then, and we were trying to push for it to be revised year after year after year. I even rewrote it myself. Nothing happened, so that's why I'm here. So if you would like to get involved, as you did tonight, please, when we start going out for the comprehensive plan, there are meetings that we need residents to get involved with. Residents who are 18 and over, we want to know why you want to leave and how can we keep you here. We also want to know from the next generation and the generations on, what do you want to see? How do you want to see it? And get involved. Tell us, there's going to be surveys being sent out. We've got a consultant that we have, that's won a bid. These are part of the grants that we've got. So the process is, they're gonna teach us what the process is, just like the town of Hamburg is going through, but we're gonna start that whole process, I believe June-ish?
Yeah.
Ish, but we will have an opening meeting that says, here's who we are, here's what we're gonna do, and the timeline. So, that's what they owe to us as part of their contract. So please, when you see that, come on out, we need your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Keating. The Connect Life blood drive yesterday was an overwhelming success, one of the highest that we've had here. 30 units were collected, which helped save the lives of 90 local patients. So I will thank Councilman Carter Keating. He did give blood yesterday. Is there anyone else in the room that gave blood? This is something that the town of Boston gets it is always an overwhelming success for these blood drives. We are one of the only towns that can support doing one blood drive a month. If anyone gives blood, I believe, or if they don't give blood, I believe that there's a time frame between giving blood. It is at least 60 days. So we have enough residents and others in our community that will give blood that we can support a blood drive every month. It really is overwhelming. So anyways, I will move on to Memorial Day service. Plans are underway. If you are an entity that has been involved with the parade and the service in the past and you haven't been contacted by me, you will be this week or early next week. And I will report one thing for Kelly, I know she is not here, that she would bring up. The CAC Fishing Derby is next Saturday morning, May 13th. So bring your kiddos out for that. And I did want to thank the residents that stayed for the remainder of the meeting. I know after everyone speaks, sometimes it's nice to just be able to get out and converse amongst yourselves. But the rest of the business for the meeting is a new business, and these are actionable items. They may have been some things that you may have been interested in. We can print more agendas. We probably ran out tonight because of the overwhelming success of everyone attending. The scheduled meetings are posted on my board, the town clerk's board. It's right outside my door. If there is a change and I'm notified by the board clerk, who is the clerk for CAC, zoning board and planning board, we will update that schedule. She does do her best to get those posted online. If there are any changes of meetings, sometimes there is a last minute cancellation. You can always call my office to see if I have any updates, and we will certainly give that information, provide that information to you. Also, if there is one of those other auxiliary boards meetings that are scheduled when they're scheduled, or if there has been a change in the meeting. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I gotta say, it is great. There's been a lot of conversation about, really, this is, my deputy supervisor made this comment earlier, really, this is the first time this town board has really seen many people here. I mean, Chris Gordon from the Hamburg Sun is here on a routine basis. And I gotta tell you, a lot of times it's us, it's Chris, maybe one or two other people, Mr. Jackson, a couple, that's it. We are public servants. I've always said that. You know, I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. I serve you, you pay our salary. That's how this works. But the zoning board, to Councilman Carter Key's point, here's all my notes from all of your comments, and here's my response to all of you. Zoning board, planning board, conservation advisory council, those are all advisory boards to the town board. There are, and I will not lie to any of you, because I believe in openness and transparency, there are plans and there are projects that do not ever come in front of this town board. We do not make the determination here. A lot of times a town board, generally speaking, any town, city, village across New York State, gets kind of black eyes for projects that are pushed through by the town board. I can tell you, it does not happen here. It goes in front of the planning board. If you own property legitimately, and I'll just rip off this Band-Aid and start this because it's already on social media, but there is a very openly, there's a proposal, next board meeting, there's a special use permit for a proposed gas station down on Boston State Road. If you own the land, and it's zoned properly, to Councilman Cardicini's point, if it's zoned properly, you're applying with you're in accordance with local state codes. It has to follow what's called the SEQRA process. That's the acronym, SEQRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act. That is your traffic studies, your environmental impact studies, and other things. It's way above our pay grades. This is something that the applicant has to go through. So, there's a lot of, my board, I won't echo what they said. I won't take away their thunder. They did a great job explaining this to all of you. But there's a process that's here. And I do think Councilman Cardicini said it very well, that we all raise our right hands to take an oath of office to uphold these laws. I mean, it's the same, and I've used the example, taking it away from like commercial development, because it is happening in town, right, wrong, or indifferent. But if, Jason Keating owns land at 123 Any Street in Boston, New York, and it's been green space for decades. If I come in someday and I say, hey, my wife and daughter and I, we want to put in a home there, we start clear cutting the trees, you've always seen Bambi and Thumper and the beautiful wildlife there, it's permissible. If it's zoned as residential, we can come in and start clear cutting the trees, and that's the way it is. It's a tough pill to swallow, but we have, cluster subdivision that's being proposed. We have a gas station that's being proposed. I don't just, to Councilman Cardicini's point, it's sometimes these projects, you're like, gosh, I wish we could keep those trees, but if the landowner owns them and they want to develop it, if they're following the process, this is that's how that plays out. We do absolutely 100% try to keep, as I'm looking at my notes here, we do absolutely try to keep the lines of communication open. This administration, to Councilman Cardicini's point earlier, we brought in live stream video feeds. Everything I'm saying, everything, all of us in this room, it's live streamed. As soon as the town clerk hits end, it gets packaged out on YouTube, boom, out to the town website. That's all captured. That was all grant funded. That did not exactly, that was basically pulling back your tax dollars into this community. The town website, we worked hard at trying to modernize that. I will absolutely acknowledge there's a lot more to do there. It's an expensive proposition in the world of the electronic world that we live in, but it's very tough in Boston to try to find an easy way to and I wholeheartedly mean this, it's tough to find a way to communicate with all of you. Because a town, under state law, a town board has to, at a reorganizational meeting in January, we as a town board have to select a newspaper of general circulations language as it's written. With that being said, we choose the Hamburg Sun. That is the one that we choose. But then, and I will openly admit that it is not a perfect solution. It's not. If you don't subscribe to the Hamburg Sun, whether it's the electronic copy or hard copy, you're not getting the communication. I understand that. And it is tough. Doing a mailing, I'd love to do a mailing. The cost is borderline prohibitive. It would be extremely expensive. To your point with the developers, I wish we could do a newsletter. I have looked, or we as a board have looked into that. If you remember the what we call Winterfest back in the day, I was a councilman back at the time. That Winterfest, some of those publications that went out to you were thousands of dollars. So again, managing the budget, trying to stay under that 2% tax cap, those are all the facets. And we're not trying to not trying to hide information. That's just something, and I will not speak for, I've always said this, I will not speak for my fellow board members, but I tell you, we got a great team up here. We have always been open and honest. We've always spent the time with any resident that's come to us and brought concern to us. So please, to your point, there are multiple different boards, zoning board, planning board. Yes, I know it's a lot to keep track of. If you do have 30 seconds, or you do, I'm steering you back to the website. Here I go. But if you do have web access and you choose, go out to the website. We do try to get the information out there. And we are, again, in some cases, legally bound for public hearing notices. We're legally bound to publish certain things in the newspaper. Mr. Goldberg, I guess, again, I got copious notes here. Public hearing, some of the reasons some of those fees have changed is because technically speaking, if you really want to get into the minutia of it, if Jason, and I won't pick on anybody else here, I'll use me as an example. If I decided to build a new home, do something in there, that public hearing notice and all the associated costs, I should be tasked or burdened with that cost, not the taxpayers of Boston subsidizing Jason Keating's project. That doesn't matter if it's my home, doesn't matter if it's my shed, it doesn't matter if it's a large scale industrial corporate project. That's why we did assessment, and again, this was a recommendation based off of our town planner, our code enforcement officer, and that's why those.
If it's a bona fide expense, fine. If it's
Right.
something to stop somebody from going to a board,
Yeah, we didn't
that's
take
something else.
Yeah, we didn't take the magic 8 ball, shake it up, and say, here we go. Yeah,
And it
that was
wasn't
not the
made
case.
up either, it was based on what the actual fees are.
Yes. So again, trying to kind of cover a lot of bases here, and I really appreciate all of you, staying around tonight to hear some of this.
Might I observe? that for those of you that don't subscribe to the Sun, Mr. Gordon does a wonderful job of keeping track of what happens. If you don't subscribe to the Sun, the website that Supervisor Keating mentioned has every article, every announcement that has come out in the past probably 5 or 6 years through the Sun. So if you don't subscribe to the Sun and you want to see what the last one was, I try to be fairly diligent 3-4 days after the paper comes out. There will be the article scanned that you can look at. Thank you.
Sure. All right, moving along to all of my notes here to answer, since you both came, and I really do appreciate you coming back. I'll go right down the path of solar. There was not a local law or a solar code on the books until the 5 of us up here passed that. That was something that this administration did. Can it be challenged? Absolutely can. That's the matter of law. Anything can be challenged in today's world. That's hence why the planning board exists, the zoning board of appeals is there. But a local solar code, local law was not on the books before the 5 of us here were here. To my deputy's remarks. So we have planned, we have taken some of this into consideration. That comprehensive plan, absolutely, as you see me checking things off, the comprehensive plan, it's old. Absolutely, it's old. I mean, 2000, it's when we're all sitting around worried about Y2K and was the world going to shut down? Let's face it, my daughter will be 16 in June. My daughter was born on, this is not an exaggeration, my daughter was born on the day the first iPhone was released, June 29th, 2007. I'll never forget it. I hold in my hand something that 16 years later, we have a small supercomputer in our pocket that we can email instant communication all across the world. So to put that in perspective, to Mr. Goldberg's point, there was not a change in that for a long time. Fair being fair, this administration worked very hard to not only secure a Erie County grant to help offset that cost for the comprehensive plan, but also what's called the CFA or Consolidated Funding Applications in New York State, which is not an easy task. And I will very openly cut to the chase. I was told that we probably wouldn't get it because of, I'll just chalk it up to our political affiliation. Kudos to New York State. They awarded the town that. This comprehensive plan will pretty much fully paid with grant funds. There's a lot of criteria we have. Yes, exactly. Knock on wood. But right now we're looking at that. We've got a great team. The town engineer, which is Clark Patterson Lee, is helping us with that. So there's a lot of things in progress that we're working on. With that being said, prior to the 5 of us up here, when I was out campaigning, knocking on doors, nothing political, but just out knocking on doors. I'm sorry, I don't remember all of you in the room, but I was out there with a yellow tablet writing down, basically doing a needs assessment, what was going on in the community. We now have a town-wide drainage report that we have created a proper reserve fund, a proper report, and working with Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper, working with Erie County Soil and Water, working with Erie County Environment Planning, working with our engineer. We have funding, we have funding mechanism, but a report and a system in place that, God forbid, any of you come to us and say, hey, we've got a drainage problem. I mean, Two Hills in the Valley, we do have some drainage problems. We have a system in place to take these things on. It's not a perfect system. I will openly admit that to all of you face to face. Because under that Article 8 of the New York State Constitution, we legally cannot spend money that benefits a single taxpayer. That's why we have to work with Erie County Soil and Water to potentially work on some of these projects. Councilwoman Selby's done great work there. There's been projects that have been talked about, and I'm not exaggerating, over a decade. Because of the work that we've done, we've knocked those out. They're done. And you can look, we have the board resolutions, we've done those things. So we have taken that to heart. What else do I have here for you guys? I guess pretty much that covers it. But yeah, solar, we're going to have some heart-to-heart conversations coming up. I do feel. I will also air out there that Erie County Environment Planning, I've spoken with the commissioner, the deputy commissioner. What is being proposed there currently has an agricultural exemption, so Erie County Environment Planning is also involved on this. So it's not just a town board in the batting cage, but it is also Erie County Environment Planning in the batting cage with us. So we'll see how this plays out. But it's not just Little Town of Boston. We also have some buy-in and some partners in this conversation as we move forward. All right, now I'll get back onto my report. I think I've covered everything. If not, stop me after the meeting. But really, I thank all of you for coming out. Again, you pay our salaries, and I've always said that. It's great to see people here. We do. We hope people get involved, and it's great to see everyone here. There's a New York, speaking of comments, there is a public comment period with New York DEC regarding new recycling proposals that are coming out of Albany. This information is also on the town website and the town Facebook social media page. But that is coming up next month. There's a lot of information there. I didn't print out War and Peace, but there's quite a bit of information there. Definitely educate yourselves about it, because it will, because we are required to recycle here in New York State, under New York State DE's regulations. There's some things that are going on there. I'll try to report on it as things progress. I also said on a solid waste management board that there's a lot of things going on at the state level pertaining to that. There's a public comment period, so if you are interested or you care about recycling and want to go down that kind of rabbit hole, so to speak, take a deep dive, voice your opinion. The state, believe it or not, they do listen. Not legal staff and soapbox there. The town is actually currently working with our new grant writer, Rotella Grant Management, for the New York State DEC grant. Again, speaking of grants and trying to pull taxpayer money back. We had a great conversation the other day, and there's for those of you that are in the room that are not aware of this, again, here we go, communication. If you weren't aware of this, in your solid waste bill, their waste management offers the waste management at your door special collection service. If you have e-waste, household hazardous waste, which means electronics, old gasoline, motor oil, hydraulic fluid, we're a rural agriculture community. Basically, anything other than tires can be picked up through waste management these days. You can either go out to the town website and go to the solid waste link and go to waste management special door collection and schedule these services. But that cost, because of that we've adopted, we brought this into our plan, we can receive up to 50% of that cost back. So it's about overall for the year, for all the parcels of town, so roughly a $62,000 price tag that comes along with that, which is, believe it or not, much cheaper than the county's household hazardous waste events. But if we play this properly, we'll get about half of that back, which will be nice because we can take that money and kind of snowball that into the next year. Rotella Grant Management, they think we're in a good position on that information. Just waiting for some feedback from Waste Management regarding their workers' comp insurance and also their permitting process for that collection. I would like to publicly thank our dog control officer. First, she thanked the town board, but I'd like to thank her for attending some training that is out on the other side of the state. There's, here we go, fees, but New York State has changed. New York State Agricultural Markets has changed some of their fees. They've also, under Article 7, they've also changed some of the dog control officer criteria, which the town board will be receiving soon from the dog control officer when she sends it to us. So we'll be looking at possibly implementing some policies here to be compliant with New York State laws. I did have a meeting with the Boston Young at Heart senior group. Certainly would like to thank them for that. They invited me to their summer party luncheon, and their summer luncheon party. You can attest to this. There's a couple of questions that came up, and it basically became an after party work session. I was there for almost an hour and a half afterwards, answering questions about solar and about other development that's going on in town. So here we go. It shows the need to try to keep find ways to keep those lines of communication open. Comprehensive plan kickoff meeting. Please sign up for that if you haven't already, or if you're interested. It is going to be approximately about a 1.5 year long process. That's our timeline that we're setting today. We're looking at roughly about, hopefully, a couple hours a month is what we're anticipating. But again, this is the future of Boston. This is the looking for the horizon. What do we want to see in the next 4, 6, maybe 10 years? In an ideal world, that comprehensive plan should be updated every 6 to 10 years because things do change quickly. So with that being said, I'd love to see the downstairs community room. This is where we plan to have the meetings, but I'd love to see that community room, even a quarter full. I think would be great because this is the feedback that we need to properly serve you and whoever really, when we pass the batons over to someone else down the road, let them serve the community the best of their ability. Here we go, grants. The town just started, we received it's called the Justice Grant or JCAP grant. New cameras are being installed at the town hall. We had some older cameras, and thanks to our court offices and our grant writer, we were able to secure funding, and those cameras started going in today. Tuesday, I have training for the fair housing officer. I wanted to bring that up. This is something that it seems like I routinely kind of catch up on, but if a resident rents property, it's called home or housing opportunities made equal. We are required to have a fair housing officer in the town. It was historically as a past board member. It's just kind of state the mold. But essentially, if someone feels that they're being discriminated against, that they're not being treated fairly, that their rent's being increased, et cetera, there has to be a single point of contact. And really, we don't get involved, but we're kind of that front line, kind of the front lines, screen the applicant, see what's going on. If it's deemed as a potential discriminatory scenario, then we pass it off to housing opportunities made equal, AKA Erie County, and they handle everything from there. That is something, if you want to air that out there, the town clerk does have some pamphlets in her office for anyone that does happen to feel that they may or may not be discriminated against, or if you're a landowner, and you have tenants they are having difficulties with, they will help you understand what your legal, what your realm of legal authority is. And we did, with certain landowners, here I go talk about the pandemic again. I said I'd never talk about it again. Here I am. But there's landlords that could not evict their tenants. That was just a real thing. Their tenants were not paying rent. That was real. So this helps, both sides of the aisle here. It's a great resource. I have, if you couldn't tell, I've learned a lot, but that is something that I've got going on. There is a rural transit awards breakfast next Wednesday that I was invited to. If anyone knows someone that wants to be a volunteer for rural transit, they serve our community very well. Here in Boston, they have a pretty large territory. So if you want to volunteer, or somebody would like to volunteer, has a few hours of time, reach out to Rural Transit. Again, they do a great service to our community, and God bless them. But there are two people that I would say serve most of the calls for that organization that serve here in Boston. So that's to honor those folks. I believe, let's see here. I'm looking at some of my chicken scratch. The one thing I will, I'll bring it up to the zone. I'll go back to that proper zoning and use. The one thing that I think everybody in this room can relate to is the Dollar General project, which is why I said I wouldn't say that, but here we go. We got lucky on that one. I won't lie to you. And to Councilman Carter-Key's point, if a developer comes in, they find the ideal location, they have the proper space, they don't need a zoning, need to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance or other things. I'm not gonna like it any more than any of you, and I'll look at all of you dead in the eye and tell you this. I don't like it. Can we stop it? Maybe. However, what I will tell you, if we try to stop it, they will sue us, file an Article 78, and guess what? We spend your taxpayer dollars fighting something where we're fighting a losing battle. So again, we do our due diligence. I can say that for the five of us up here. We do work very hard at that. That is a good example. Again, we got pretty lucky on that one, and that's why we don't have a second Dollar General at the moment.
We had great legal counsel, I'll just say that.
Yes, we did. Yes. Can't forget our attorney for the town. Yes, Mr. Sean Costello. Yes, and the boards also did a great job. Yeah, we fought that one. Again, it's David and Goliath, and we won. And I will say, we actually, our town clerk got thankful for her and her team. They get FOIL requests. Hey, how did town of Boston win this one? So with that, I would also like, here's a funny one, and Councilman Carter-Key, I'm going to pick on you for a moment and have some fun here tonight. But I would like to very openly thank Councilman Carter-Key and firefighter Dave Abba. There was anybody that lives on Back Creek Road, this is a funny one for everybody. This is a chuckle. Mike's gonna shoot me. I shouldn't say that. There's a commode left on Back Creek Road. If you happen to be down by Boston Valley School, there's a commode that was left there. We did receive some complaints. It's a vacant property. And thanks to Councilman Carter-Key and Dave, I'd like to thank you both for picking that up and keeping our community in pristine conditions. But really, it just goes to show, when the flag is raised, people take care of our community, and
all that's left in the toilet.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go there. Crappy situation. Yes, we do have fun here on the town board. We got a great. We have a good team.
Thank you for just telling everybody that I trespassed today to complete that task.
Because actually, technically, in the right of ways, you didn't trespass.
Is it 30 feet? It's 30 feet off.
From the center line is 30 feet. So there you go. I got you covered. Yeah. And without further ado, wish all the moms out there happy birthday. If it wasn't for moms, we would not all be here in this room. So thanks to all the moms. My mom did a great job raising 3 kids, and when she was a single mom, sadly, I lost my dad when he was young. So anyway, I always praise all the moms in the room because without moms, they make the world go round. They really do. They sacrifice when they can. They do what's right for the kids. They'll put food on the table and eat a smaller meal so their kids can eat. I know I wholeheartedly know all those stories, and I wholeheartedly thank all those moms out there. So with that, we've been here a long time. It is 9:05 p.m. Thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for coming out. Please.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Mr. Goldberg, I overlooked you.
That's all right. Councilwoman Lukacek pointed out what the planning board does, and the fact that even though they don't allow public comment at their meetings, they're a little bit looser around the edges if you want to say something. That was basically what I wanted to get across.
Good one. And the other thing I will say also, as I'm just thinking about it too, Mr. Goldberg, as far as planning, and my deputy did bring this up, I didn't get that in my notes, but I don't know what, maybe just think of it, water projects. When my deputy made the comment, it was 15 million, that was, that's pre-pandemic. We're looking at about $20 million of water projects going in over the next 3 to 5 years. There's a dedicated Town of Boston website page that has all the resolutions, the reports from, it's called TIC, Tank Inspection Consultants, which show the water tanks that are being repaired. If you have to live around any of the water tanks, you'll see the bowl heaters completed. Rice and Rice and Crestwood are both in progress of being repaired this year. You will see the images of what the tanks used to look like and where they're headed. But yes, the water main breaks, sadly, we're all aware of them. We had boil water advisory, and we're going after that. We're trying to pull in this called WIA funding and other funding, so to try to keep that cost down to all of you. If you have, how many in this room has either well or public water, we're trying to keep that cost low to all of you. So there'll be extensive conversations, but there's a dedicated Town of Boston webpage for water projects. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us, call us, email us, but I certainly appreciate everybody, again, coming out. And so with that being said, I will make a motion to end the meeting at 9:08 p.m.
Councilman Tony? Yes. Councilman Kartakini?
Yes.
Supervisor Keating?
Yes.
Councilman Lutnick? Yes. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
First and third Wednesdays of every month at 7:30 is the town board meeting. And thank you all for coming out, because this is